Hey, here we are.
Uh,
Hello.
Hi, Mom.
Hi, Megan. Here
Well,
we are.
here we are. Welcome to Sacred Soul Mornings. We're two generations, one microphone, and less filters as we go. I can't wait to land that one.
But we're still sincere.
I'm just cracking up at myself. I know.
Okay. And the
Chapter
goal is peace.
Yes, the goal is peace
Yeah.
because this is a living meditation. We are purposefully going chapter by chapter in the Tao Te Ching and analyzing it and thinking about it and meditating on it. And this is an extension of our morning conversations on the phone every day across hundreds of miles.
hmm
And so this week is chapter 7 of the Tao Te Ching, and my title is Fore and Aft. And do you want to talk about what yours is?
What my title is? You want me to go ahead and do this part?
Read it. Yeah, because people
My
don't know
little,
you don't have a Tao Te Ching in your local library.
and mine is called The Watcher.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
And how can you want me to read this little part here?
Huh. Yeah.
How can we find the eternal, the lasting nature of the Tao? That means the way, just a reminder of the Tao that seems so elusive amid the changes of life. And I agree with that. The Tao does not come and go, as do all formations. It is the watcher, just the watcher of the comings and the goings. In our practice, we find that we are the watcher as well. We watch our opinions and ideas, our likes and dislikes, our desires and our fears. We watch our bodies and our minds, but we do not identify with them. Therefore, when they arise, we just watch. When they pass away, we remain. And just one little extra little thing here. Um, we are merely advised not to identify with anything that is transient, such as feelings, opinions, personalities, situations, and so forth. For instance, notice the subtle difference between, and this is powerful because I have been kind of practicing this a little bit, but the difference between saying I'm feeling fear or I am fear. And so there's a
Yeah.
big difference when you think you, and that way you can just watch that fear feeling pass. And are there certain feelings or situations that at the moment you are identifying with rather than merely just experiencing them and watching them pass? The Tao and I remain.
I
So
love
that's what I
that.
have in this little treasure.
So this is introducing us to the concept of non-action in Eastern beliefs. That's the phrase they give it is non-action. And so I would like to talk about the context of where this arose. Like we don't really know when Lao Tzu really wrote this, but there's some speculation maybe, okay? So I like to imagine that this guy got upset in the current situations, right? And then he left his city and he went out there by himself and he contemplated some things.
Mhm.
That's what he did. And this is how he wrote down his thoughts, okay? I think about this a lot. So he likely lived during the 6th century BCE. Okay, that's important if you've listened to any of the other things that I talk about on here. This was prior to the Jesus time. So the Zhou dynasty. And it was that time period was a time that was like with political unrest, okay? Political decay, even social unrest. And he observed the destructive patterns of ego-driven power which it resonates right now so much. I mean, we are trying to live through this meditation, this living meditation of applying the Tao Te Ching to our lives while living through our own struggles in this world right now going around. Um, so we're taking this seriously.
Mhm.
And I don't know if this is an outsourcing of us saying, that prayer. God, give me faith. Oh no. When I was in third grade and I prayed, God, give me faith. Is this what happened? Anyway,
Uh,
so and Lao Tzu offered Wu Wei, which is non-forceful action, as an antidote to control. He said he went out there on his hill. He got away from the empires and ego-driven stuff. I mean, this was a this was a fully fledged society. This was not like probably like our British ancestors running around in the woods with blue paint on. This was, they have arts and culture and commerce. So things that we can identify now in our current society, he had the same struggles about money and maybe even health insurance. I don't know, maybe he had things like that.
Some other kind of way, maybe.
And he said, we've got to figure out something else. He
Hmm.
went out by himself and he thought, I'm going to figure this out from source. And he offers some advice. And chapter 7 is a way to handle this kind of stuff, the
Hmm.
for and the F, the back and the forth. And it's about that gap, that little gap between who I am
Hmm.
and my feelings. And I know you had a verse or something from Eckhart Tolle. And if anybody's read Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now, in the very, pretty much the beginning, there's a portion that says he was like really low and he thought, he had a moment, that gap where he goes, wait, who am
Hmm.
I observing this feeling? Pretty much,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? What was that thing you had from Eckhart Tolle? If you don't remember it, that's okay.
I don't remember it in my, I mean, I know what you're talking about, but to
Yeah.
say it right now.
Okay. And
But
it's
anyway,
also
I
in
can
that
look
other
for
book. Where is it? Is it in here? Oh, I've got to show it.
it.
Yeah. Nope. I've got it in the living room. I'm gonna exit the camera and
I'm
talk.
gonna exit. I think that I've got,
Keep talking while I'm exiting the
I
camera.
don't know if this is what you're talking about, but
Go ahead.
hurry. Well, Eckhart Tolle, hi everybody.
I,
Um,
I see what funny.
said, this is something that I don't know if this is what you're talking about, but he was talking about Jesus.
Yeah,
And he said, one thing Jesus said is, and Jesus said, believe that you have received it, the fullness of life, and it will be given to you. I don't know if that's what you were talking about or not, but that was Mark 11:24.
well, that's a very the kingdom is within type thing, right?
It is, yeah.
Because we're talking about internal alchemy. We're talking about internal transformation. We're not talking about external rules. We're talking about a desire to transform the internal so that you can find more peace.
Hmm.
And so overcome the world. Doesn't mean you're going to get a mansion up in the heavens somewhere in a happy place. It means that you are having a less miserable experience in the now. That's it.
Because you're in that little gap. You recognize
You're in
or
that
aware
little
of that
gap.
gap. Mhm.
This book,
Oh, that book.
this one is a great book. It's a discourse book, just like so many books are. Um, This one is a discourse book where he pretty much says, like Lao Tzu does too. He says, "Don't. I'm no like advisor. Why are you writing this down? You can figure this out yourself."
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
someone wrote down these things, and I am that. Who am I? I am not my feelings. I am the watcher.
Yeah, I'm the watcher.
I am the watcher. And
Mhm.
so in practice, that can be kind of hard to develop that
It is
lack of
hard.
attachment.
Hmm.
Because first you have to realize that you even have feelings.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
so
that's good.
like when I was going through all kinds of therapy for stressful situations that I was in, like legit stress. I know people go through it, but I've had some difficult things in my life, and you have too. And so sometimes it's nice to talk to other people about things like that. I
Mhm.
had to identify that I was feeling the feelings because it was just me integrated into me, and I was
Hmm.
shutting down my body, I mean, health wise.
I know, I remember.
And so part of that is like mindfulness, right? You have to be
Yes,
like, I am here. My hands are on the steering wheel. I am here.
but it's good to
Yes.
learn and practice these skills. It does help.
There's no way around it.
Hmm. And yes, exactly. Like Lao going out in nature to contemplate. Well, he was out and experiencing his five senses.
Exactly.
I'm getting still and being able to become aware of that gap,
Yeah, of the
being the
feeling
watcher, being the feelings, and then being the watcher of the feelings as they pass on by.
as they pass on by and
They
through.
pass on by.
And so when I even, and this is a spoonful by spoonful thing, I say that lately, but it really is. And you don't have to
Mhm.
worry about it. No one has to worry about it. You'll figure it out as you go if you keep seeking at the level you can tolerate, right? So
Mhm.
maybe at first it's just mindfulness that I am actually in this place right now. Here I am.
Mm-hmm.
Now I am here in my body right now. Because maybe you don't know that. Maybe you're up there in daydream land and worrying about what could happen if the airplanes crash. What could
Mm-hmm.
happen about the stock market? You've got to
Mm-hmm.
get back to the wait a minute. I'm not on the stock market. I'm not in the airplane.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's here right now. The police are not here right now.
And everything's fine right
Everything's
now.
fine. My hands are touching things. And so, like with my kids, like my oldest especially, when she's having a moment of extreme anxiety about something that's legitimate,
Mm-hmm.
we have to really ground ourselves in the senses,
Yeah.
feel, hear, smell, touch, taste. Where are you? Here you are right now. There's no guarantee of the future anyway. We are here right now. Right now, are those other kids at school here? No. Right
Mm-hmm.
now, whatever. That's the whole power of now with Eckhart Tolle, and that's the whole thing with Lao Tzu.
And that's what we are trying. One of the reasons why you and me decided to do this is because, and I'm just sharing this with whoever might listen to it, is because we're wanting to change things generationally.
Yeah.
Like I wish that
Mhm.
I'd had this knowledge that you have right now. Gosh, it makes me a little bit emotional. But anyway, when you were growing up, I wish I'd had it when I was growing up,
Oh, yeah,
but
me
we
too.
didn't.
But
So,
that's a whole another thing is that
and so from
if we're
yeah.
all the same consciousness, I know we don't talk about that always, but the Tao talks about that. If we're all the same consciousness in different bodies experiencing the world, coming and going, fore and aft, then by me doing that with my children, that is me.
Hmm.
That is me. And by you and I learning this now, that is us. And this way of thinking, um, in a turbulent government situation like Lao Tzu had, or anyone now, um, it's not passive, it's peaceful.
Yes.
So, yeah. It's not saying don't get out there and fight necessarily. It's saying do what resonates with you. So if it's something that it resonates with you to get out and protest, if it resonates, if it feels peaceful, then
Mm.
maybe you're called to that. If it
Yeah.
doesn't, like I'm not someone necessarily that it feels peaceful to me,
Yeah.
and maybe that's not my role. I don't know.
Right.
It's a scary way of feeling if you're used to the shoulda couldas.
Hmm. And then also recognizing again that we each have our own, part of the whole, and we each have, and we've talked about this before.
Comely and a comely part.
Well, okay, but anyway, so that we each all have our part as we're here in this moment in space and time.
Yes. It's yeah. So it's I would like yeah, so that's biblical. But like, when it says blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are the meek. It doesn't mean being passively horrible little weaklings,
No,
but it does mean self-control.
it does mean
It does
self.
mean not ego-driven. It
Yeah.
means flow and not force.
Yes.
And that is very opposed to a lot of systems. Flow and
Hmm.
not force. I've heard some really great speeches lately, which I am very empowered by. I'm happy. And I hesitate to even say this because I don't, I'm trying to live in the flow, right? And a lot
Hmm.
of times I find myself saying things like, if we just had a government ruled by daycare teachers, we'd probably be okay because I don't know how they keep them all under control when they have primal 2-year-old instincts. And you go in the room and they're like taking a nap at the same time. And you're like, what are you doing? Because that's the demographic that's going to grow up and be the same people that are in
Hmm.
government and everywhere. They're the same. They're just little. I don't know.
Hmm.
And they're not squeezing them into spots and going, sit here. Um,
Yeah.
they're
Treating
they're getting
them
compliance in a different way. Anyway, so I've been
respectfully and
listening, yeah,
kindly.
to speeches about how we're going to overcome this fear-based system that we're in right now. I take that seriously. I know people are listening to us that feel that. So this could seem a little foo-foo-y if you don't realize that we live in that too. Me and
Hmm.
you, we feel
Yeah.
these same things. We're not
Hmm.
ignoring it. And so one of the speeches I heard from our former President Obama, one of the, and he was so encouraging. He says, people are important. You guys are going to be able to get through this if you stand up for yourselves. Okay, but he says we have to realize we're a rule-based society and agree we're a rule-based society. Where does that put
Coming
us?
from. Hmm.
And I do agree-ish, but at the same
Hmm.
time, trusting the flow.
Hmm.
Are there unwritten rules of the Tao of God? Yeah, there are unwritten rules of Tao and God that we don't even know, but that are ordered. And so some of this reckoning, the reckoning of balancing what's going on, it's still in control,
Hmm.
still in control. But we can find peace in it by practicing uh,
Hmm.
letting those emotions pass through us.
And I wanted to emphasize because we don't know how many, if this podcast is put out there, and we don't know how many years it might be out there, or if at all. We don't know how many
Maybe
months or
it'll all just disappear. Yeah, I don't know.
maybe not at all. But anyway, so, but I just wanted to emphasize that being able to find the peace and being able to learn how to be in nature and find some calmness by uh, examining nature or whatever it is, no matter what storm you're in.
Yes.
And so it's not just about one kind of situation. It's about
Well,
like could be any kind of storm that you're
yes.
personally going through, no matter what it is.
And I don't say this lightly. And I understand people apparently have all just strange feelings about this person one way or the other, which I didn't realize it was controversial. But Viktor Frankl,
Mhm.
when he was in Auschwitz, correct? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, he talked about this, his experience with this
Mhm.
in that situation.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm not him. And you know what? It's easy probably maybe to look at us, even if you're joining this program. And you're like, look at these ladies, got her makeup on. We look pretty Caucasian. We look like we're part of the okay group. Look at our houses. You got cream colored walls. I got cream colored walls. We are living it. Got plants, cats. What, these ladies probably got retirement plans. I don't know. It's probably
Mhm.
easy to think that. And yes, there
Yeah.
are many blessings, but you have no clue the things that have brought us through
Hmm.
um, to get to this point. There had to be a huge refinement by fire sometimes to get to this point of seeking
Hmm. And finding,
and
like we
finding.
kind of talked about, was it last, I think it was chapter 6.
So there have been
Yeah.
periods of living in cream-colored houses with neutral colors, and there's been periods of living in houses with wild animals. And they're not pets, but kind of pets, randomly in and out. I'm
Hmm.
just saying, you just cannot judge because you don't know. But in this period, there's some peace. It doesn't mean there's peace even in our personal lives necessarily, because
Hmm.
I get on the phone and I talk to you about some very unpeaceful things with our government, and it could rip apart us
Hmm.
in multiple aspects. And so, yeah. But when I stop and I go, okay, that's a feeling. That's a feeling. Where is it? I teach my students this. By the
Hmm.
way, these are speech therapy students. These are not like spiritual students.
Hmm.
I teach this to them because they don't know this either. It has to do with confidence and awareness and social language. Where is that feeling residing in your body? Where is it? Feel it. Where is it?
Hmm.
Is it in your throat? Is it in your chest? Is
Hmm.
it in your belly? And what I find is that most of us have the same feelings. We're not so,
Hmm.
I know exactly where it is in your body
Hmm.
because physiologically we're the same.
Yeah.
And it gets stuck in here.
Hmm.
And then if you just count through that fear, hold on to it, and believe you're not gonna fall over and die right then, it lets go.
Hmm.
And you were not that feeling because you remain. And that is what is in this
What
chapter.
that chapter is
Um,
about.
yeah, the Taoists put self aft, the self is for. Treat self as a thing outside. Ego is a thing outside, but the self endures.
Hmm.
And what is that self? The I am. The I
Hmm. The self. Let me see if there's anything that um,
not personal.
mm, um, I don't know. I read a commentary that I found on the internet about this chapter, and I'm kind of bringing around another, I guess, a little tangent or another. aspect, but anyway. And so this person was saying, compare this to when Jesus said, for I was really on, this was Sunday when I was looking at this stuff and
Oh, I got my notebook too.
I was really, get finding comfort and peace in these thoughts. But anyway, Jesus said, for whosoever will save his life shall lose it, and whosoever will lose his life for the way, for my sake, and that's the way, shall find it. So in a way, I guess, and this person said, this is salvation for him whose self disappears before truth. Basic truth is very simple and universal. So he was calling that gap the truth. He was calling that,
Can you please
and
share?
saying, pardon me.
I'm so sorry. Can you please share that thing about the language in the translation?
Okay.
I think it's
Um,
so important.
I do too. Where did I do it? Okay, yeah. And it connects, but well, anyway, the first Chinese translation of the New Testament said the word Tao, the way is used for the eternal Christ, which is not Jesus's last name, by the way.
Of
And
Christ.
so the
Mhm.
Tao in the first translation of the New Testament said that the way was the Christ. And before his incarnation as Jesus of Nazareth. Anyway, here's the verse in the Chinese first translation of the New Testament, John 1 and 1. In the beginning, well, you know that part. In the beginning was the Tao, and the Tao was with God, and the Tao was God. So, and don't get upset, everybody out there. It just means the way. It means the Christ. And
Yeah.
we learned that. We just kind of grew up as little kids or whatever thinking Jesus and then Christ was the last name, but that's not what it means. It means the universal everything, Jesus of the universal everything.
Of the universal everything in in an utmost human experience. That's the Christ.
Mhm.
That's the
Jesus
Christ.
of Nazareth,
Mhm.
the human, the physical body here.
We could probably, oh man, I don't know how far down
Well,
the path, but I could probably. When I talk about revelations in that other little video, you know, um, he came face to face with the Christ. He came face to face with his enlightened self. When I talk about Paul on the road to Damascus, other people heard a sound and nobody else saw anything, and Paul just saw something. He came face to face with himself. He didn't see Jesus, the person, he saw the Christ. He had an awakening, he was enlightened. We
mhm.
could probably even say Lao Tzu, the Christ.
Well, that's what the Chinese thought when they first translated the.
But there's this is why education is important and literacy is important. And why, whoops, hold on, lost my computer screen. And why some people are so afraid of it. Because when you start learning languages and root words in other languages, and you think about this book being translated, it doesn't line up in a literal way. And you have to think about that.
Yeah.
For example, you gave that about the Tao. That wasn't a mistranslation. That was the best word they could find to fit that in
Mhm.
Chinese. Or like when I made the the idea when it connected because our family's bilingual with Spanish. When it connected with the word and sin and the root words of sin. What does sin mean?
Miss the mark. But
Without,
what does it mean?
without.
But that's what it means in Spanish.
Well, I mean, but without the root word. We're talking about
Mm-hmm.
Latin Greek root words all the time. I don't even know how
Mm-hmm.
many times I've taught, right? Am I correct? Or that
Mm-hmm.
is, it means without.
Mm-hmm.
You're lacking something. It doesn't mean it's something you did. Mhm.
Yeah,
It changes the whole thing. There's
it changes the
many,
whole thing.
many words like that that you're like, what?
Well, and doesn't come from, but it popped in my mind from something else that I've studied too. But the word righteousness, you will become right. You have to be righteous or whatever to get the approval of God. So that word, one of the original Greek translations did not it wasn't the word that translated to righteous, it was justice, meaning what's fair and what's good.
And that is impartial.
And so if
And
you read
whoa. Yeah.
the New Testament and replace righteousness with justice, it kind of changes the
Changes the whole thing.
whole thing.
Changes the whole thing. Or even to link it to the video I just posted today about women's roles, because there's some verses in Timothy and Corinthians that have hung me up for forever. And I was like, let's get Paul away from the Bible. He doesn't belong in here. Whatever.
But
So
now you have no peace with
I
that.
made peace with Paul. But it's been like a very long journey.
Yeah, it's okay.
Well, there's a word. I didn't talk about that in the video because I forgot. But in the authority, we talk about authority of like the umbrella of authority, right? We have God and Christ as a person, and then Jesus, and then men, and then women, and then children, and then other things down here underneath it. And like we would draw this figure, and many churches have drawn this figure on boards. There is a word in Greek. So the authority, right? Biblical authority. The word they use in that was authentine, and that's not the normal word for healthy leadership. It implies domination, aggression, something out of alignment. So it's saying that it's saying if you see Paul and women's roles as layered, we're talking about something that's not that we're trying to come into alignment, that you need to be aligned between your masculine and feminine selves. Anyway, my point is that language and learning more about languages, not just Greek and Latin,
Mhm.
not just that, not just Hebrew, but all the languages, really changes a lot. And it's the same with our Tao Te Ching book. I've got the
Mhm.
literal version, you've got one with tons of commentary. I mean, it changes. And thank
Mhm.
goodness the flow is not dependent on it. According to Lao Tzu, according to the Bible, according to many beliefs, you don't even need any of the books. According
Mhm.
to this one, who he said, please throw it away. Don't write this down. You
Mhm.
can go out there by yourself and find it in silence.
Mhm.
Find it in the divine feminine subconscious.
And then I'm thinking of that verse that says in the word that was written in their hearts. Well, this was way before
Yes, the word
anything
was
was
written in their
written
hearts. And then
down
that the
about
kingdom
the
is
Bible.
within. When we say that all the time, what does that mean? The
Mhm.
kingdom is within. You shall see the kingdom in your lifetime. Well, how
Mhm.
in the world were they going to see it in their lifetime?
Yeah.
Unless it was something you could attain in your lifetime.
Mhm. Yeah.
Mm. So we only have about 5 minutes left. So overall, the Tao in this chapter was written in a time where they had an obsession of control, recognition, and productivity, and take it for whatever that is. You need to make parallels with society now. And it taught endurance comes from releasing control. And so I would follow up with myself and personal reflection. What parts of my life feel like they need force right now, like feel forceful? And could I loosen my grip on those things? Usually they're money related, and
Mhm.
trust the unfolding.
Yeah.
Ooh, can I trust the unfolding of this unknown political system? Can I trust it?
Yeah.
Not the political system, but the overall unfolding. Hmm. And then I have this quote, because the sage does not serve, I'm going to say herself, but it could be himself. He or she becomes fulfilled. You do not serve yourself. You do not become clothed with the ego. You're not
Mhm.
adorned with ego. And that's from Timothy. We talk about adorn. Is that Timothy or Corinthians? I can't remember being adorned with broided hair and jewels. We're talking about the ego being adorned. Don't be adorned by the ego. Be adorned by the hidden parts, by good
Mhm.
works.
Mhm.
And not good as in, like
Trying
simple
to earn
morality, but
favor
something
with,
that's,
yeah.
no, something that's in the flow, something that comes from your source
Mhm.
and
That's
feels good.
kind and feels good. Maybe helps someone else, or you save a butterfly or whatever
And
it
it
is.
feels
I'm
good.
not
Yes,
making,
because if it comes
and I'm
out of
not
a place
making
of
light.
obligation, that's
Mhm.
not it.
Mhm.
If it's obligation, I have to write this thank you note and I don't want to. That's not it. But if it's, I'm going to sit here with my dog and I'm going to pet him in this moment because I love him and we're sharing this energy. That's it. And so it's an individual journey, and that individual journey reverberates out to change the world. It's not something that's hidden.
Yes. And we need to embrace that. And thank you for saying that. I
And it
appreciate
does. Because if
the
your
vibrations
shine,
of,
light
well,
shines in a dark place,
mhm,
so many
there you go.
allegories. That's why we're full of allegories,
Okay.
because
Yeah.
language is limiting. So we have 2 minutes left. What's chapter 8?
You want me to read my part
Yeah.
here? Okay. Chapter 8. Our life flows like water. Oh, that sounds like fun. Do you want me to read this little part here? Our true nature is like water. We're going to like this one. It doesn't decide whom to nurture and whom to avoid. It doesn't decide that some tasks are too distasteful. It just flows like a river to the ocean, nurturing everything in its path. This is the nature of the Tao within all people, and I'll save the rest for next time. So our life flows like water.
Man, I tell you what, I love it that all these are like the same message over and over. It really gets in your brain. Okay. Well, I
Okay,
don't remember what I'm supposed to say, but I know it's supposed to be something about life is a journey and it's not a checklist. I
you
love
did
that. That's it.
it.
And so breathe deep and contemplate something in silence. That's what I would say. And enjoy the ride. Thanks, Mom.
Thank you. Okay, bye.